just be ready because it comes with a story. Man, it
Yeah,
really is.
dude. Good to meet you here as well. And you tell me if audio or anything's like choppy. I know sometimes my Wi-Fi gets a little fucked up here too, so I can flip that over to something if it's bad.
Seems to be all right. How's life, man?
Dude, good. I different, right? It's with all this shit going on, right?
Right.
It's presented its share of challenges, but for us, timing of it all has been uh fairly good, if there's such a thing. We really want to start trying to write some new material and all that. And
Right on.
yeah, so I've got one song done, uh, which is encouraging. It kind of came out of nowhere, and got a bunch of pieces to a number of different other things, I think. And and traditionally, I've been the one to write the material in the past, but I think the way that the group is nowadays, it's much more collaborative. So I
Yeah.
think you'll hear some different stuff on this next record. We're hoping to get into the studio maybe this time next year, like May or
Right.
June of next year. And I think once we do that, uh, you know, people like yourself will hear it'll sound a little bit different from Taste the Blood, but in a good way, I think.
Yeah.
Thrashing the vault and that kind of stuff. Because there's kind of a signature outlier sound. I think it's rooted in, I hate the term pretty much groove metal or whatever, but I know a lot of people like to tag us with that, and I just kind of interpret that to be like catchy riffs, not necessarily something called groove metal. I don't really know exactly what that represents. A lot of people say it's
I wouldn't either. I mean, some metal's got some groove to it, but I wouldn't call it. You guys to me are thrash. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. I,
thrash.
I would I would like to think that we are as well, and I think we incorporate a lot of elements of different influence too. Like whether it's death metal or whatever it happens to be. I mean, that's kind of my roots really are like thrash and death. But I lean heavier I think towards thrash than I do death metal. But they both play a part in Outlier, which makes what as Outlier today. And so I think with Rick being relatively new to the band back in, I want to say towards the end of 16, he's the newest member.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of ideas that I think are really gonna change up our sound, and not take away from the kind of formula, if you will, but
Yeah.
it's gonna take us in a little bit of a different direction. I think maybe more guitar oriented, if you can even imagine it. I think the taste, the taste of blood and thrashing the vault stuff. It's definitely guitar driven stuff, but I think this will maybe be more. There'll be more like guitar harmony type stuff, and nothing
Right.
like cheesy or anything. I just think stuff that just fits, and so I'm excited about that. I know Rick's trying to write some stuff now too, and I've heard some of the things that he's put together, and they're great. They're a different style than my playing, but I think
Yeah.
it's coming together will be nice. And and believe it or not, everybody in the band actually plays guitar. Um, you know, uh, so
That's a plus because I
yeah,
mean you can have fill-ins on studio time and stuff like that, right?
for sure. And I know I'll give you an example. Adam, our drummer, he had a couple riffs that I would say it's kind of like almost like that. If you remember bands like Darkest Hour, and like The Haunted, and just a lot of bands that were kind of like Swedish thrash, kind of putting their feet in the death metal waters a little bit.
Unanimated is another band that I think that's about like what you're talking about.
Okay, yep. And so it's just got a lot of minor harmonic to it. And I'm not a big theory guy, but it just kind of sounds like uh, there's a very particular sound. It's kind of that Swedish thrash, maybe early Soil, Arcane, those kind of bands.
Yeah.
And Adam, I think, kind of writes like that because he was in a band that played a lot of that stuff back in the day in Kentucky. Actually, is where he's from. And so that influence I think will come through here too, and it'll kind of mix with maybe my Bay Area thrash influence, that I think I bring to the Outlier fold. So it's going to be exciting stuff, man. I think it'll be cool. I think it'll give Anthony a real opportunity to maybe space out his vocals a little bit. We felt like Taste the Blood and parts of Thrashing the Vault, had a lot more words than maybe we really wanted.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so it'll be cool to see kind of where it goes. But outside of that, man, just trying to stay safe and healthy and
Right on.
inside and all that stuff without going crazy. But I know
So-
everybody's doing it too.
Let me ask: does the whole band live in North Carolina, or
Yep, we're all close. The closest big city to us is probably Raleigh, North Carolina. But
Right.
we the majority of us live and practice in Apex, which is kind of outside of Raleigh. But yeah, we're all local, within a half hour or whatever of one another, and we were all hoping to get together here, shortly, but it just doesn't feel right this second. There's a lot of that shit going around North Carolina, and
how long's it been since you guys played together, like actually practiced, or?
yeah, it's been I want to say before, because we had the Violent show that was rescheduled right to October, and that was scheduled for March 20th. So I want to say that we practiced. I think the 2 Thursdays before that show. And the only reason I remember it is because I want to say that it was on somewhere around March 5th was the last time that we all saw each other and practiced. Because the next week, we usually practice on Thursdays. The next week, I went to go see Overkill and Exhorder. And that was the last live show that I saw. That was a metal show anyway.
Yeah.
That was the last show I saw that in Charlotte, and that was right on the cusp of everything that's going on right now. And I had a hard time taking it serious, right? Like most people, I think there was 300 or 400 people at that show. They were all hanging out, drinking, and I could feel the slow burn of pressure that, like, man, this show may not go off. And so that was a Thursday, and then I think on Saturday, my girlfriend and I were having something to eat, and one of my friends had texted me and said, "Hey, did you see the press conference that the governor just held?" And I was fucking pissed. And
I bet.
yeah, in hindsight, it was the right thing to do for sure. But at that time, man, I was fucking bumming. And
because I know you got, especially I know you were looking forward to that Violent show.
yeah,
And now
yeah,
I'm looking forward to that
I know
Violent
it.
show because
I know
it's
it.
gonna, like I said, my birthday's on the 4th. The
Yeah.
show's on the 10th. It's
Yeah.
already sealed up. We've got a place to stay for the night.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I cannot wait to see you motherfuckers live. I'm telling you. You guys are great. You've got a style that, I mean, I can see how somebody might say, like, well, they don't sound very thrash. You do to me.
Yeah, no, it's
But
cool.
you just got a style that just, I mean, it punched me right in the gut when I first heard it. I was like,
Yeah, that's
these
great.
guys fucking rock. You're really looking forward to the Violent show. Have you got anything scheduled or planned after that?
We haven't with this thing, just like everybody else, and it's kind of thrown a wrench into everybody's plans.
Right.
But we typically don't do any kind of like real, like, full on touring. Our lifestyles don't really allow us to do that. So we try to pick some weekend warrior type stuff, right? Maybe pull some Friday, Saturday out of town shows and that kind of thing.
Right.
And so we had some plans. They were preliminary for 2020, but so we're hoping to maybe get out of state in 2021.
Mhm.
Maybe I know come down your way, or at least definitely on the western side of North Carolina. We've been asked to play in Asheville a number of times. Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah.
We've been asked to play there a number of times, and it just never quite lined up. So we'd like to get out that way. We've got some fans out in the western side of the state, and certainly in the neighboring states of Tennessee there and parts of South Carolina. So
Yeah.
so we'd like to kind of expand that a little bit, and but also really buckle down and get new material written so that we're able to go into the studio next May or next June at the latest and get record number 3 under our belts. There's some history to Taste the Blood and Thrashing the Vault that some people know, as far as the songs are a little bit dated. And so we've been playing them for a couple of years now. And even though the releases came out fairly recently, 18 and 2020 respectively,
Yeah.
those songs, those songs have been done since 14 and 15. Some of them, most of them, in fact. And so it's time for us to pull this thing together. We had some member changes and all that kind of stuff, in
Right.
15. And so, these guys are just chomping at the bit to write new material, and so am I.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be good though. I mean, I can tell you the first song out of the gate, uh, it belongs right on "Taste the Blood." It's got some different elements to it, but it's a side splitter for sure. So we're we're looking forward to
If
that
I'm
one.
wrong, Taste the Blood. I mean, they're both, like I said, they're both awesome albums. But Taste the Blood, is it a little heavier as far as like guitar, your riffs and I don't want to say your crunchy
Yeah,
shit, but
yeah,
is it not that way as far as compared to Thrash in the Vault, which is
yeah.
that's a collection of older songs?
Correct.
Am
Yep,
I
yep.
correct? Okay.
Yeah, so so I think for for people who aren't familiar with the Outlier stuff as much as you may be, um,
Oh,
the
they will.
we'll get it, we'll get them, we'll force down their throat all the followers and the committed for sure.
Oh, thank you. Right on. That's what he said.
And but yeah, no, we Taste the Blood. I would consider as a much more thrash focused record. And Thrashing the Vault. A couple of those. Sorry, all of those songs were selected from an album that I'd put out with previous band members called Provoke to Anger back in 2012.
Wow.
So we would play some shows here and there, and some of our older fans who'd been with us since those days would ask for some of the songs that are now on Thrashing the Vault. And we were, the guys didn't know them, and I didn't really want to go back in time and dig these things out and dust them off, et cetera, et cetera. But so we kind of did this in reverse. But we ended up, I guess, in the summer of 18, we released Taste the Blood. And by the time that was actually ready for release in the summer, behind the scenes, we had actually gone back and re-recorded those songs that are on Thrash in the Vault.
Right.
Maybe in March or April of 18. So we went back to Jamie King's studio, which isn't too far from here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and went up there. I had the thought of, I said, hey, let's go back and pick the best songs off of that record, the kind of fit with who we are today, and that we could play them live, and I think people would enjoy them. So it was about half of the record. The other half, I would say, was less thrash focused. Was more, I always kind of remember those songs as being kind of like Injustice for All, the song "Eye of the Beholder." That song, bit of a mid-paced tune.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where those other songs from the first record really went. And these other four that on Thrash in the Vault, like Vendetta, and what else is on there? Faceless Enemy and a Lost of Sincerity, right? Those songs are more thrash focused. I mean, A Loss of Sincerity is as Testament influenced as any song that I may have ever written. So
yeah. Yeah. Now, just because we're talking about that,
yep,
that's you growling right through the chorus.
Yeah,
that's you, isn't it? That's what I thought, because I seen you, through some of the video for Pillars.
Sure.
It shows you're on the mic there, and I was like,
right.
That's him growling. I was like, he growls. That's pretty awesome. It really is. It's awesome. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I appreciate it. And that's just the death metal influence in me. I think the Cannibal Corpse, Suffocation, all those kind of bands that I grew up loving. And I always, it was a little bit easier for me to do death metal vocals than it was to do like thrash metal type vocals.
Yeah.
So, and I just, I don't have the stamina of a guy like, George Corpse Grinder Fisher from Cannibal or somebody, but,
does.
Yeah, I know.
Big bastard swings his head for 15 minutes and then growls out 15 lines,
Yeah, nobody can win that battle with him. I've not seen anybody beat him at it. But no, so yeah, but that's those vocals, the death metal styled vocals are me, and Cisco throw some stuff in there as well. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I wanted to showcase that more on the Thrash in the Vault stuff, because on the earlier mixes of that of those songs way back in 2012, it wasn't as featured. So it's more of our live show, because that's kind of where we go with it, and you'll see that here shortly. But I think those tunes to answer your question, those tunes definitely are not as focused, I think, as Taste of Blood. I think Taste of Blood drew more influences from thrash bands.
I'm really, you guys have toured with a lot of bands, haven't you?
Yeah, we haven't necessarily toured with them, but we've played some shows with them. Yep, we've been lucky enough.
That's what I meant to say. You played some shows with them.
Yeah,
like I mean, I saw a list like Cannibal Corpse, Amorphous, Dark Tranquillity, and I mean that list just kept going.
Yeah, no,
and that's pretty cool. And I can't wait to see you all live. I mean, I can't talk enough about it. That I said I don't want nothing from Arte, no money, no beer, no. I want to see Outlier. And then awesome. Right after that, the rescheduling of the show come up, and my wife was like, 6 days after your birthday, are you happy? Yep.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, we got some good friends you'll be able to celebrate your birthday with.
Right on.
It'll be a good time. But yeah, no, and I appreciate the kind words. But we we were able to secure some support slots for some national acts coming through the area. And we've worked with a promoter here, a company called Crank It Loud, and they've been really good about bringing some really good metal shows to this area, and some tours rather to this area. And we draw fairly well, and we're happy to help support the initiative. I think a lot of people have some strong feelings about being an opening act and helping sell tickets for the shows. And that's never really bothered us, because our fans have been fortunate enough, not fortunate enough, we've been fortunate enough that our fans would buy tickets from us. And it's whether people love it or hate it, these promoters play a game behind the scenes that not a lot of people want to be a part of. And I can speak to it firsthand, doing this with Violence. It's the promoter's money on the table, right?
And
so when a band wants to open a show and they have a problem selling some tickets, and they mislabel it as something called pay to play, which is not what that is. Paying to play is just paying money to play and not doing anything else. We're just offering to help sell tickets, and it doesn't cost us any money. In fact, we get paid after selling them. But nonetheless, we've been fortunate enough to jump on a number of those shows, because Crank It Loud continues to bring such great shows here. And and we did 2 back-to-back shows with Cannibal Corpse back at the end of 2017, which were 2 of my favorites. Cannibal is a huge draw. They're the most popular death metal band in the world. I would argue with anybody. And
you're right.
Yeah. They draw. They've got a lot of people, and they're consistently at their shows and what have you. But so we were really fortunate enough to play with them, and I've got some connection to the guys in Cannibal. Alex is a really good friend of mine through the years, and although that had nothing to do with getting that show, it was awesome to play with those guys, and they brought a cool package with them. It was there was like an old school death metal band out of, I want to say, like Arizona area called Gate Creeper, which is really, really good. And I love them. They remind me a lot of like old school, like Entombed and Bolt type stuff. God. Yeah, so really, really good. And then they had one of the up and coming, and it's hard to call them up and coming now because I think they're already up. The Power Trip. They were the main support to Cannibal on that tour, and it's a great bill. It wasn't just an all death metal bill, so it was a fun bill to be a part of. We did it back-to-back nights in North Carolina. And then we played with Suffocation and Revocation a couple of years back as well, and that was an awesome show. And then some of those other bands you'd mentioned, like Amorphous and Dark Tranquillity and that kind of stuff. Obituary is a band we've been able to play with, and it's just we're lucky, I guess, that we've got people who are willing to tickets for those shows. They want to see the show, and then we were able to help, get the tickets to those people, and it kind of makes a nice guaranteed turnout for everybody. And we kind of prefer that, honestly. We've done a lot of local shows through the years, and they're super fun. We've got some great friends in the scene. But every so often you'll get bands on there that either don't do a great job of really trying to bring people to the show, or sometimes there's bands that have kind of the bar star mentality, where they think they're bigger and badder than other people, and we just don't have a lot of patience for that, obviously. But so I think that's what you can kind of expect from us over in the foreseeable future, anyways. Hopefully able to secure more of those national tour support slots, and then just do some of our own headlining stuff, with some of our good friends in these areas, and then just maybe take this outside of North Carolina. We've got some different places that we like to play outside of here, so Tennessee would play too.
Oh yeah, come on. Well, I mean, our closest place is Knoxville, where we're at. I mean, I could throw a rock and hit Knoxville from where we're at. And that's, that's where our biggest bills come. But unless you're like Slipknot charging $500 a ticket, or you're a band that's not well known charging $10 a ticket, but you don't know who they are, that's where we're stuck. It's black and white. There is no gray area.
Yep.
So that's why I don't mind a bit to go out of state for shows, man. That's just me. My wife she's a metalhead, but she's not. In her words, I'm not nearly as strung out on metal as you are. She tells me. And she's like, I don't know, you talk this thrash, death, dance, whatever it is. And it's just, we have a lot of fun together. But that was the one thing that she was like, she got excited when she saw that you guys were close to my birthday. And I was like, that's just awesome. Because now you were talking about the scene. Has North Carolina got a pretty cool metal scene, or?
Yeah, I think it's really strong, honestly.
I mean, you guys are there, obviously, but
yeah, and we and I think we get along great with most of the people that are in the scene, and like I said, we don't really have any kind of like ego associated with the band, but I think it's a great scene here. There's some great bars that support it. There's a place called the Maywood in Raleigh, which is the mecca for live metal, and they're as supportive of metal as anybody could be. It's everybody's favorite place to play. It's just you go there and it's kind of like a mini family reunion. You see so many people that and I've been going there for so many years now, and never once have I ever seen a fight there. I mean, it's just there's never any trouble. Nobody's cars are getting broken into in the parking lot, whatever. So it's kind of everybody's looking out for everybody, and I think there's that exists to a high level within the bands too. And I think everybody really is very supportive. It reminds me on a very much smaller scale, but it reminds me a lot of stories to the Bay Area, the San Francisco area back in the heyday of thrash, the mid to late '80s, where
that was almost where thrash was born.
Surely
in that area.
Yeah. No, there's no almost about it. It was definitely there, So, and there's a great documentary out now called Murder in the Front Row. Anybody who ever wants to bone up on kind of where it all got started, it just came out at the end of April, I want to say. And director, I was lucky enough to cross paths with Adam Dubin, and he was the director of that film, and he's also the same guy who directed Metallica's Year and a Half in the Life of. It was the documentary on the Black Album.
Yeah.
So this guy knows his metal, and and so he's been around for sure. And so he got connected with the guys who put that book out. The movie was preceded by a book by guys named Harold Oimian and Brian Liu from the Bay Area, and these guys were like me and you, in terms of going to all the shows and supporting the local bands and stuff. And they were friends with guys in Metallica when they were coming up and all of this. So all that being said, that scene was great. You could go to any show back then and you'd see 20 or 50 people that you knew all the time, right? And 5 different bands or whatever. And so I think we have that on a very much there's so much small scale here in Raleigh that you'll go to a club, or sorry, you'll go to the Wood and see a show, to see your friends' bands or what have you, and you'll probably see 15 or 30 people at least, I should say, from different bands and fans of all the shows and all the bands. So I think the scene is really healthy here. I'm really interested to see what happens when the time comes that everybody can start playing again, and it's safe to go to a show and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I know I've got some ideas about putting together a big bill here, and hoping hoping to do that when things come up. And it just screams to me it should be at the Maywood, and there should be a number of bands on that bill that really should do this show and help the bar out, and just sell it the fuck out. I mean, so it'd be interesting to see if that same camaraderie exists when this all comes up. I have no reason to doubt that that won't be the case, but it'll be interesting. So yeah, so it's a fairly strong scene, I think.
Well, I'm hoping. How's that? I've got to ask you. This is just personal. How's the venue that the Violence show is going to be at? How is that venue?
Yeah, so the Poorhouse Music Hall and Record Shop, right? I met
That's where it called
Adam.
me. It said Music Hall and Record Shop. I was like,
Yeah.
what? So,
Yeah. So the history that I don't know a ton of history on the Poorhouse itself, but it was always known as the Poorhouse. Whether it was the Poorhouse Music Hall or not, I don't know. But there may have been an ownership change within the last 5 years, and the gentleman who owns it now, a guy by the name of Adam Lindstad, really nice guy. I worked with him to bring the Violence show here. So that club in particular, Sean Killian, the singer from Violence, he and I were talking about, possible venues, and we're trying to get something that was kind of small, but not too small. And so, this place, I think the room holds just under 300 people. And that felt like that could be a really intense show. And Violence is a really, people who like them really like them. I mean, there's so many people coming from out of state. It's rather tremendous. But it's a great venue in terms of the sound system is amazing. The guy who runs the sound there does a wonderful job. So acoustic, I mean, it is a hell of a venue to play. It'll be a little different logistically because there's an upstairs and a downstairs. And upstairs is where the record shop part of it exists. But I believe during shows, and especially with this one, which we expect to be fairly big, if not, I think the record bins get pushed up against the wall or something.
yeah.
They're in the like wooden cases, and there's like a bar both upstairs and downstairs. So you can see the show really from anywhere. But yeah, it's going to be the sound of it's going to be great inside of that bar, So and like I said, it was small enough where we wanted it to be intimate, I guess, and so it's going to be good, man. It's going to be good. It'll be a lot of fun. They don't do a ton of metal shows there. They do a lot of rock and all sorts of different things. I've seen some shows there. In fact, I went there to see this really cool band out of Asheville, North Carolina, I believe. I think the gal's name was like April B and the Cool, and it was like this like funk type band. It was really cool, and we just went there because the word came out about the whole ban on shows and what have you. And so I went down to go talk to Adam, the owner of the Poorhouse, just to kind of say, okay, where do we go from here? And so, we stayed there and, drank away my sorrows from knowing the show was going to get, pushed away. I'm seeing Violence flyers on the wall and knowing that it's not going to fucking happen. And, I've been waiting for it for 6 months. It sucked. But nonetheless, we just hung out and happened to see a really cool non-metal band, but she was cool as fuck. The band was fantastic. And, but my point is, listening to the music in the bar, I mean, the fucking sound is spectacular. It really is.
Right on. Well, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I got one last thing to hit you with, brother.
Sure.
If you don't mind, okay, off the top of your head, quick thinking, Desert Island, 5 albums. What are they?
Oh, easy, man. Metallica, Master of Puppets, Violence, Eternal Nightmare, Testament, The Legacy. I'll probably throw King Diamond, Them in there. and maybe bring Cannibal Corpse eating back to life with me. Those.
Wow, what a list, ladies and gentlemen. That's what Ray Curry from Outlier would be listening to on a desert album, Desert Island.
That's right.
Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah.
Well, man, I super appreciate it, and I know you're busy to let you get back to it, and the committed what you do, like let me use the track for
great.
the dog video and everything. That's super, and just, I mean, you guys just rock. And the people that I've introduced you to have just been nothing but 100%. So, I mean, I'm just looking forward to the future of hearing what you guys can. I mean, not that I'm unhappy with what you got now, but I mean, like I said, you guys are up there with me.
Man, really, I appreciate it. We certainly appreciate the support, love, and support from you guys, and the friends that you've introduced us to. I know I've talked to a few of them myself, and so, dude, we appreciate you doing, spreading the word, taking care of those beautiful dogs, and just stay metal as fuck, dude.
Oh, you too, man. It was nice to finally talk to you, and I'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it. All right, thanks,
Thank you, Ray.
You got it. All right, we'll see you.
This is where we're